Large audience tonight. I'd like to welcome you to the Woodbury Zoning Board of Appeals. Would you please rise for the pledge to the flag? Excellent. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, welcome to the Woodbury Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We meet this second Wednesday of every month. Our next meeting will be in February, on February 13th. It will be here. We do not have a full board this evening. It is your right to not present if you don't want to hear the full board. If you want a full board. Our board members are, starting on your far right, Mr. Joseph DiVenuto, Mr. Gary Kestenbaum, Mr. Kevin Abrams. Our attorney has not yet arrived, Mr. Michael Donnelly, our recording secretary, Jessica McLennan, and I'm Karen Ungerer. There'll be a few changes in the order tonight because of changes in the agenda. We do not have an executive session. Number 2, approval and acceptance of previous minutes. Those are the November 14th minutes because we had no meeting December. Has everyone read the November 14th minutes?
Yep.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to accept them as written?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. New business, it says not applicable, but we do have a last-minute email that our attorney sent to us concerning the duration approval time limit, the 90-day time limit. So my question is this. 1, do we wish to entertain that at all? And 2, do we wish to entertain that with only four board members? So let's decide whether we wish to entertain that. The proposal is to change the 90-day limit. After a zoning board decision, the 90-day limit, change it to 180 days with possible extensions as needed. Whereas now it's a 90-day term limit with a 90-day extension. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
Well, to your point, I would certainly entertain that, and I don't see any reason to not entertain it because we have 4 members.
Joe?
I'm fine with it.
You're fine with entertaining it with 4?
I'd like to keep it at 90, personally.
Well, then maybe we should just discuss that then.
Yes.
So what do you think? We should entertain it this evening? I would do it at the end of the meeting, but...
I mean, I'm fine with it, and, I'm okay with 90, but if it's a planning board, if something's going back to the planning board, I think they're going to need more time. And I don't think they should be waddling in here every 3 months to get an extension if they're going to be 6 or 9 months with the planning board.
Okay, but my question right now is just whether we should entertain this, and we'll discuss it later.
Yeah, we should discuss it later.
Okay, so then we'll add that to
We
the
can
end
take care of
the...
Mr.
Truhan.
Truhan, and this way he can go home.
Absolutely.
And then we
So
can go
we'll
back to
entertain
this.
that at the end of the meeting. The next item says action on decisions. I'm moving that to the end because it's a closed public hearing and we need to decide on conditions for that decision
Okay.
for Woodview Heights. All right, public hearings, Shops at Woodbury. This is a continuation of a public hearing for area variances and interpretation. Applicant proposes to construct a commercial center and hotel having a lot area of 9.65 acres. The height of the proposed hotel is 60 feet high, whereas pursuant to Section 310-7 bulk regulations, the maximum height permitted is 35 feet. Furthermore, the applicant requires an interpretation as to whether a hotel is permitted as part of a commercial center pursuant to Section 310-49C3. In the alternative, the applicant is requesting an area variance from the minimum lot area required pursuant to Section 310-6F. Said property is located in the IB zoning district off the intersection of State Route 32 and Losey Lane in Central Valley and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 225, Block 1, Lots 34.1 and 34.2. The applicant is waiting to complete secra with the planning board and has requested that we keep the public hearing open, but he will not appear on the agenda until then. Anybody
No,
wish
I-
to speak to this application?
No, we kind of said that they're going to.
Right, but
Indefinitely.
it's here, yes, but
So why would you just take it off of there until such time?
because the public hearing's still open. It's off the agenda, but the public hearing is still open. Okay, so we will continue that public hearing.
Do you need a motion on that?
Do we need a motion on that? We do. You want to make?
I make that motion to carry it over to February's meeting?
I thought we made a motion to do that indefinitely last
And
time.
we did.
Yes.
Yeah, but you still have to have it open for public comment, so.
Right. Okay, so we want to keep it open for public comment.
I'll
So
second Joe's motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, second application, Falkowitz, continuation of public hearing for an area variance and special permit for the demolition of an existing non-conforming three-family dwelling and construction of a two-family dwelling. The applicant proposes two alternative plans, Plan A and Plan B, which will both require a variance to permit the expansion of a non-conforming use and special permit pursuant to Section 310-43.2B1 and 310-43C of the Village Code. However, Plan B requires an additional variance to permit a rear yard setback of 40.1 feet, whereas pursuant to Section 310-6B and 310-7 bulk regulations, a 50-foot rear yard is required. Said property is located in the R2A zoning district at 12 Skytop Road in Highland Mills and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 217, Block 3, Lots, says Lots 4, Lot 4. The applicant is requesting a postponement until next month.
I make a motion, we continue the public hearing to February's meeting.
Unless you wish to. No one nobody else wishes to.
I second Kevin's motion.
We like these type of nights.
You made the motion. Who seconded that?
Joe.
All in favor of continuing?
Aye.
February? Aye. Joe made the motion. Kevin seconded it. All right. Truhan, public hearing for a special permit to permit the use of an existing second dwelling unit for an individual family members, mother-daughter, pursuant to Section 310-35 of the Village Code. Said property is located in the R3A zoning district at 32 Sutherland Drive in Highland Mills and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 207, Block 3, Lot 45. The applicant is present. Would you step to the podium, please? You're Mr. Truhan? Thank you. So you purchased this property in, oh, it's a hidden button.
Yeah,
You purchased it in May of 2018?
That's correct.
Your wife's parents?
That's
Have been
correct.
living there since September
September,
2018. This is a previous special permit apartment, nothing has changed?
nothing
There's
has changed, same dwelling, same structures,
Same egress, front and rear, yeah, I saw that.
correct.
Beautiful house.
It
Thank
is a
you.
beautiful house, and welcome to Woodbury,
Yeah,
even though you've been here almost a year now. Is there anything that you would like to add, other than
no,
what's
I
in the
mean, I've
application?
written everything there, nothing special. In-laws in-laws, my mother-in-law, father-in-law live in there, nothing else has changed, and, my wife and kids live in the primary residence. They're helping with utilities, but for the most part, I'm taking care of everything else, so.
Anyone from the board have a question to the
I'm good.
Mr. Truhan?
Other than that, you know that they do an annual inspection of that?
That's fine.
Okay.
Perfect, yeah. Yeah, like I said, if there's anything we were going to do around the property itself, we would come to you guys to see if there's any additions or anything that would be make adjustments, so.
That's good.
I'm good.
All right. All right, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed, so at the end of this meeting, we will render a decision.
Thank you.
You can stay, or you can call the building department tomorrow. I believe,
Why don't we just do it now?
well, we can, but we still had to close the public hearing.
Right, and then we'll go back
Yeah.
to the other stuff. Mr. Truman can go home.
What happened to our attorney? I believe he has to go to the building department with the names of the people who are living there when the decision, you know, if it's a positive decision,
Okay.
okay? Right, right.
During
What we
February.
do is we vote and we have a draft decision, and then next month we vote on that decision,
Perfect.
okay?
I could-
Right, you
yeah,
can
Gary-
still absolutely
Gary
call
or
and find,
Murray.
absolutely,
Okay.
yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Okay.
All right, so do we want to deliberate on this closed
Yeah,
public
let's,
hearing?
I have no problem with it.
I have
mean,
absolutely zero
I think
concerns
we
on this
should have our
application.
attorney draw up a positive
Okay.
Decision.
decision.
I agree. So,
Why don't
do
you
I
make
have a,
that- Make that motion,
I'll
Kevin.
make that a motion.
okay, do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, Joe, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So you
Hold
have a
on.
special permit mother-daughter. You don't need to call the building department. All righty,
Have a good night.
thank you. Building inspector's report, we have a building inspector's report with 5 dwellings that were inspected, 2 were complied, the 3 others don't have anything there. Do I have any comment on that? I have a motion to accept the building inspector's report.
Motion.
Second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, also.
How you
Oh,
doing?
boy.
I just have to come, our New Year's resolution is kind of make sure we introduce each other on our different boards in the event of a vacation or something like that.
Oh, okay.
No vacation.
And
All right.
and lawyers do like vacations.
Like them, we don't.
It's been a few years since I last saw you. 30, maybe?
Well, we just went through everything. We made it.
This is it?
The applicant left. We rendered a positive decision. It's a draft decision for the mother-daughter, positive. It was a,
It's got to see.
it was, yes, and it was a
It was a-
pre-existing special permit. Nothing was changed.
I know exactly
Yeah,
the way it
it's
was.
right.
The other thing is the apartment unit can't exceed 25% of the floor area of the primary.
I don't think it does. Yeah, well,
I doubt
yeah,
it.
I doubt it
yeah, it
does.
does.
Picture
Yeah,
they identified.
yeah.
But it used to be a mother-daughter, so.
Oh, was it?
Yes,
Yeah.
right. He bought it, right.
No, it would've-
Yeah, yeah.
So I can go then.
Almost.
Almost, we're almost there. We have 2 things. One is the time limit, 90-day. We decided that we will entertain that this evening, even though there's not a full board.
You can't act on it tonight.
No, we don't,
For the next one.
well, we haven't even discussed it. We just decided that we would discuss it. We have not discussed it yet. And the other thing was Woodview Heights. We need to
We can have an attorney.
do it. Do we need to have that? I don't know. Do we need to have?
No, I don't
We,
think so.
yeah, we need
There's
to,
nobody here.
that's true. But, all right, so the first thing, what do you think would be more important, Woodview Heights or the 90-day? You want to do Woodview Heights first?
Let's get it over with.
All right, Woodview Heights, review decision for area variance for its proposed 13-lot subdivision. Said property is located in the R1A zoning district at the corner of Hill Avenue and Van Buren Court in Highland Mills, and is known on the Village of Woodbury tax maps as Section 204, Block 1, Lot 34. This was an application that came before us. We denied the application. The applicant filed in Article 78, and the judge ruled in their favor, so we now need to approve this application, but we can attach conditions related to the application, to this variance. So, I think our biggest concern was the flooding, stormwater management. Let me hear from what you people have to say before I spout off.
But I don't think the stormwater is our problem. I think that's a planning board issue. They have to set the guidelines through the planning board, not through us. Mike?
Certainly,
Oh,
sometimes I think we get out of the scope of what we were to do.
I think if there were proof before you, not just opinions of neighbors, that there was indeed a drainage problem, that it would be appropriate, if the drainage was caused as a result of the variance as opposed to the development, to attach a condition related to drainage. In the posture it's before you, though, the planning board has issued, as lead agency, a negative declaration, which is a determination that there are no significant adverse environmental impacts that will result from the construction of this subdivision as proposed. So you can't second-guess that determination, and since drainage is clearly an environmental issue. Now, what I suggested in the email to you is it would be appropriate, because the secret determination is fairly general. It's based upon the plan, but it doesn't drill down to the details of the elevation of every culvert and the sizing necessarily, or all of the details of that, what's called a SWIP, a Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. It would certainly be appropriate to condition your variance on receipt of a letter from the planning board engineer certifying that he has reviewed the SWIP, it is satisfactory, and it addresses all drainage issues.
So Mike, it's your opinion that the neg deck would not change despite the changes to the,
No, the negative declaration was based upon this plan with the assumption that the variances would be granted.
in 1995?
No, they reaffirmed it.
They just did it.
Just a month or two ago.
But they based it on the 95.
No, they
data?
considered the input, the impacts of this proposal.
They reaffirmed the neg
Yes,
deck? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I think we should
Now, you
try
could
to-
make recommendations if you thought it was appropriate to ameliorate any concern. If there were visual things and you wanted to plant trees, you could make recommendations to the planning board, but those issues are caused by the development, not necessarily by the variance.
Could we say something about not clear cutting?
If the variance was the cause of the clear cutting, I would say yes. But as I mentioned in the email, it's the standard practice of your planning board to mark the no disturb areas and not allow any disturbance, cutting or grading in the area shown on the approved subdivision map as not to be disturbed.
Because let's face it, part of the reason was the fact that we were more concerned about the water than we were about the zoning.
Yeah.
And that's how the judge picked that up. We didn't have enough on the variances, we were more worried about the water.
Yeah.
And that, we can't do that.
And that was based largely, the judge found, on neighborhood complaints, not on empirical evidence of there being a drainage
Correct.
problem. And I'm not saying that there isn't, because often neighbors know that there is. But the village engineer, the planning board engineer, has reviewed the stormwater pollution. No, they haven't reviewed the SWIP yet, but they made a determination that there will not be drainage issues. So I have no problem with conditioning it on the SWIP. And any other condition that you feel is related directly to the variance is distinct from the development as overall.
But the building department's responsible for the number of trees that come down when they issue the building permits. It's
Sure.
not us that, how am I gonna tell the guy, well, you can only cut down 4 trees?
Yeah, I don't know where, I haven't looked at the map to see where the no disturb areas are. It may be that this is the kind of site that needs an awful lot of grading, I don't know. But that's standard practice for the planning board to review that.
Right.
And to reserve, at least at the development stage, the non-disturb areas. That's not to say that when someone buys a house, that they can't then cut down the trees in their backyard, unless there was some conservation easement imposed for some valid reason, like a major view, like we do in up on the hillsides. The planning board will place restrictions on even future cutting of trees to preserve, that view shed area from Route 32 looking up.
That was one of my concerns, the erosion, because it's basically a hole in the ground.
Yeah, but erosion
No.
is part of the SWIP. They have to address it. Both the construction phase and the permanent plan has to be in place. So I'll attach any other conditions or recommendations you want, but I just caution you that need to be related specifically to the variance.
Joe?
Did you say, my hearing is not what it once was. Are you saying about the stormwater management, the SWIFT is what you're saying, or?
It's called the abbreviation is SWPPP, so they call it a SWIP.
SWIP.
It's a Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan.
And you can attach something along those lines?
That will be a requirement, given the size of this site, and the planning board will require, this is what's called an MS4 community, so the planning board will have to review and approve that stormwater pollution prevention plan. And what we're saying, or what language I've suggested here, is that you will specifically say that this variance will not be effective until the village engineer has communicated to you that the SWIP has been presented and he has signed off on it as satisfactory.
I like that.
Okay.
That's the language I put in the draft you have before you. Beyond that, it's up to you, but I don't know that I see any issue myself that is directly related to the variance as distinct from the overall development. There's going to be a subdivision. There would have been a subdivision
Right.
without the variance. It's just the roadway system and the number of lots.
He's getting one more lot, so, I mean, if he went to 5 lots, that wouldn't have changed the water flow or anything, really.
I'm not the engineer, but.
And
I don't think-
trees, they have to cut down a certain amount of trees, you know, there's nothing we can,
Yeah.
but the building department oversees that once they get a building permit, that's,
Oh, yeah, they had, yeah, yes, there would be inspections of the work and make sure
you
it's
know, if
done in
there's too many
conformance with
trees
the plan.
cut, they'll shut them down and maybe fine them or whatever, but
Yeah.
I think we need to, I want to stick with the law. And I think that's where we are supposed to be.
Well, that language I gave you, I don't think has any problem.
Right.
And I don't expect that there'd be another Article 78 proceeding, because that's going to be required of them anyway. You're not imposing any kind of an onerous condition. You're just making sure that in the event that they can't get the SWIP signed off on, there's not going to be a variance sitting out there for, you know, a period of time. So if that's good, then I think the resolution is, unless you have other corrections in a position or a status you can act on.
Appropriate for that.
Joe, do you have anything more to add as far as,
I think anything that I had to suggest is beyond the variance, so
Yeah.
I would say not.
Gary, how about
No,
you?
nothing.
And Kevin? you
No,
put
I'm
yourself-
good, I mean, I'm not happy about it, but
Yeah.
we don't have much choice.
You have no choice.
I have no choice.
The judge ordered you to approve it.
That's true, that's true. Do
So-
we do that this evening? Since it's, you have.
Yeah,
you
let's
have
get it over
position?
with and out of the
Yeah,
way.
sorry, I said
We don't have a
approve it,
choice
yeah.
about the matter.
Starts
So I make a motion, we accept this
wherever you want to start.
decision.
Does the motion need to say that we're doing it under duress?
Well, the decision says that. If you
Okay.
want to read that portion of it, it's at the very bottom.
Right. Okay. Okay, after, this is Woodview Heights. After several pages of facts and findings and a court-related case, the decision is as follows. This board hereby grants the requested variance only because ordered to do so by the court. The variances are granted upon the following conditions. This approval is not granted in a vacuum, but is rather one of two independent yet interconnected approvals, the other being within the jurisdiction of the Village Planning Board. As such, this grant of variances is conditioned upon approval of the proposed subdivision by the Village of Woodbury Planning Board. The variances shall not be effective until receipt of a letter from the Planning Board engineer certifying that a satisfactory stormwater pollution prevention plan has been received and approved by him. This application is not decided in a vacuum, but is rather, as noted above, tied to a specific application for approval of a subdivision application before the Village of Woodbury Planning Board. Therefore, this approval is conditioned upon the applicant diligently pursuing his application before that board. This grant of variance, unless extended, shall expire if subdivision approval is not obtained by the applicant within 90 days from the date of the decision.
That's what your code provides.
I'll make a
Do I-
motion, we accept it.
Second?
Second?
How do you vote, Joe?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the decision is granted
I'll
as
send
read.
you a clean copy. Signed. All right.
All right, the next item on the agenda which is not on the agenda, but we decided to discuss the time limit for applications such as this, which have a 90-day, currently have a 90-day expiration date with a possibility of a 90-day extension. Mike sent an email. I don't know if you got to read it. The change that is proposed is that instead of the 90 days from the date of this decision, it's 180 days. And instead of a 90-day extension, it's additional periods of 90 days each, if each such extension is warranted by the particular circumstances. So that's the change that's here. That doesn't mean that's the change we have to do. It's the change that we're discussing. What are your thoughts on this?
Mike, can we do it on an individual case? Or does everybody have to have the same?
But the rule applies to area variances only. It doesn't apply to use variances. And you could remove the durational provision completely and not have it at all. But
You
once
know-
you have a rule, it has to apply to everyone.
I mean, what if someone applies for a fence in February or a pool? Well, you know they're not probably going to get their permits until, but then do I really want them to come back here in 90 days and go through the whole process again?
You do not have to have a durational provision. You could make it longer. You could make it, instead of 180, 1 year with additional extensions. That might cover the scenario you're talking about.
And that could be done on an individual basis?
No, I think if you're going to have a rule, it has to be a uniform one. But you could have no rules, but then you'd have no durational provision at all. I don't think you could just make it up and apply it, ad hoc to applications as you see fit. So if you want to have a rule, it has to be uniform, but you don't have to have a rule. You don't have to limit the duration of your variance.
If we don't have a rule, then we can't
Then you
put
can't
any
do
rules.
it. No.
A point of clarification, please, just to make doubly sure here. So right now, we're 90 days,
90
and
plus
then
90.
one 90-day
and that's
extension
it.
for a half a year.
Yep.
Is it, and that's it?
That's it. Then you fall off the cliff. Yeah.
All right. Have we ever had that many people fall off the cliff? I mean, I've only been here
Anyone.
2.5 years.
We
The one
have
on-
had a few.
Well, the one on Campbell Avenue's building, they asked for an extension, and they're building. They got the permit, and their foundation is in.
I can't believe we
Sen-
got a septic passed.
I tell you where you might have a problem, though. If you had a large-scale project, say there wasn't Woodbury Common, and now Woodbury Common comes in, and they needed to get a variance from you for something, but then they had to return to the planning board. In addition to the planning board, they had to go to the DEC and the DOT, and they had to make arrangements to relocate power lines, and those things would take them 4 or 5 years. And with this provision the way it is now, they'd either have to wait till late in the game to ask for the variance, but they need the variance before they can get site plan approval, or they'd have to fall off the cliff and reapply. So
Right, the
in this
shop-
day and age, some of the other agencies like the DEC and the DOT and a water taking permit can take years.
When the
It's
shop at
difficult.
Woodbury does come back, they're going to be back in front of the planning board for a while.
Yeah.
And do we really want them coming in and out of here? And giving them 290 days, it's not fair. right?
Karen,
If 180 isn't long enough, make it 1 year with 90-day
Karen,
extension.
I'm in favor of the 6 month of the 180 days. I think that's a good wisdom of Solomon approach.
Say that
So what
again,
about
Gary,
the
please.
90-day extensions? You're saying then 180 days and 90 days, as many times as might be needed, but of course, they would have to show that it was,
Demonstrate, yeah.
demonstrate that there's a need.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to just limit
I'm
it
not so
to
sure
two.
that I'm connected to the request for extension to be 90 days, but I am certainly in favor of the initial request to be 180 rather than 90. That's what I was saying.
So you want a 180 plus additional 180 as you
plus
see
some-
fit?
180 plus something.
He
But-
he didn't quite say 180.
Okay.
But not
Something.
limited to only two.
No, this is, you could give multiple, as many as you thought appropriate, 90-day
Now,
extensions
look at the
beyond
planning
180.
board with
Look at with
Wagon
Woodview.
Hill. I mean, he's been coming back and forth since
25 years,
1995.
yeah. I mean, they've gotten extensions.
And I guess my point was that I'm thinking that the initial 90 days is too short
Well,
in
it's
general
proposed to be
for
180.
everyone.
Yeah,
Even if you're doing a pool or you're doing a
I agree.
a
90 is
fence.
very short.
So where we are now is we would change, we're discussing changing the initial 90 days to 180 days. What about the extensions? Do you want only one 90-day extension, one 180-day extension, or 90-day extensions as needed when demonstrated?
I would go, my personal preference would be the 180 initial, and then 90 days as needed. I don't like these things hanging around forever. You know, sometimes this gets abused.
I'm good with that, myself.
Yes,
Darren, you
yes,
also?
that's fine.
Okay, so do I have a,
Your amendment says that you can't act on it the night it's presented, you can only approve it at the following meeting. So you've
right,
discussed it?
So what do I do now?
Well, if you want to have a motion to direct me to prepare it, now it's redlined in final form with the resolution for your next meeting, I can do that.
I'll make a motion that we have our attorney prepare the proper paperwork.
For the
Okay,
change.
So this will be the
We're
one,
not getting billed twice tonight, are we, Mike?
I didn't make the rules.
so what we've decided is 180 days from the date of the decision, and then 90-day extension periods as demonstrated and needed.
As needed.
Okay.
I think that's.
Okay, the wording he has here is
I think that's a good,
That's fair.
180 days from the date of the decision. However, the board may extend this time for additional periods of 90 days each if each such extension is warranted by the particular circumstances.
And I will second Kevin's motion to have Mr. Donnelly prepare that.
And all in favor?
aye.
Aye. All right, so you'll draw that
I'll
up,
take
and
care
then
of it,
next
yeah.
month
I'll have
take
the
care of that.
Gruhan decision as well, and I'll have this for you.
Okay, and we've done the building inspector's report and the closed public hearings. Do I have a motion for
I
adjournment?
motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending. Nice to meet you.